Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be back on the Alex Syberia Designs YouTube channel today. Today we are introducing the new Christmas release from Alex Syberia Designs with a video hop and giveaway. This hop is sure to bring you into the Christmas spirits, so check out all of the videos in the hop. You can see all of the links in the description below for all the inspiration from our designers. Today I am using some brand new products that are joining our postage line. The postage stamp line started with the postage stamp die and a stencil and I think 1 or 2 stamp sets. But today we are adding the Christmas postage stencil set and the Christmas postage stamp set. I have already cut out a panel with the postage stamp die and I put it on my waffle flower grip mat. Now you definitely don't need to use this, but because the postage die is a little bit smaller than A2, I find it more helpful to line the stencils up if there's a grid behind my panel, so I can use the grid to line up the stencils instead. There is a guide on the stencils that coordinate with an A2 sized panel, so if you stencil these all before you cut out the postage die, that's also an option. I just wanted to do it this way. I find it pretty easy to line them up when there's a grid behind it, and this waffle flower grip mat has that, so that's the surface I chose to work on. I am blending all of my colors from Conquer the 9th. I just stuck with a really limited color palette. I just had a couple shades of blue, a couple shades of red, and I ended up adding just a little bit of yellow for a couple of elements at the end. All of this blending will create a wonderful postage panel, but I am going to cut it apart later to use the postage stamps individually. My favorite is definitely the Santa, and I didn't even get to use it on this card, so I'm looking forward to making another card with that. Now you can't see it, but I'm blending Santa's beard and hair in with a tiny touch of the lightest blue ink I own, and that's just going to add a little bit of shading that's not going to look dull gray. With all of the blue and red, those are quite striking, bold colors. I didn't want to mute them down with any gray. I'm not even using black except for the little dot of the bird's eye later. Even Santa's boots are just going to be very dark blue. There are some elements on the Santa that are technically supposed to be black, but I find they look a little bit better in blue with my color palette. So yeah, I just went for it. The blending brushes I am using are just some regular blending brushes and also the detail blending brushes or the shader blending brushes from Waffle Flower. I really like them. They blend really well. They're the only or the first small blending brushes that I actually like working with. They blend just as smoothly as my bigger brushes, but they're perfect for detail work. I don't have to mask too much. There were a couple of elements for the bird, I think, where I did pull in some purple tape later and masked off a couple of sections that I didn't want to blend in a certain color, as they were on the same stencil layer as some other elements, like you see me do here. But other than that, I think just using the detail blending brushes it's pretty useful. You don't really need to mask much off with these. The blending went pretty quickly here. It's helpful to stick with a limited color palette. You only need a couple of brushes that way. You don't need to clean too much in between, even your stencils. Even though I am using a couple of different colors on each layer, it doesn't really matter if the brush touches some of the darker red when I'm blending in the lighter red. It's okay. If I was using more colors, it would take much longer. It would take a lot of time to think up the color palette, first of all. And yeah, just switching between all the brushes. Now I'm nearly finished with this panel. And I did want to remind you there is a giveaway going on for this YouTube hop, so make sure to check the details in the description below. We are giving away 4 gift cards, and all you have to do is leave a comment below this video. If you hop along and leave comments on more places, that would be great, because each comment on this hop is an entry for a chance to win one of those gift cards. So here is the final panel. I really like how this turned out, but I did want to use one postage stamp as a sentiment. So I'm using the Christmas postage stamp set from this new release, and as you can see, I did already make 3 other postage stamps with this stamp set. I'm not using those on this card, and this video was already getting quite long in the editing suite, so I am just going to stamp this Merry Christmas sentiment that fits one postage stamp really nicely. So in some bold red that I also used for the stenciled images, so it's nicely going to fit with my stenciled stamps as well. Once that was done, I just used my paper trimmer to trim these out individually. I did the same thing for the stenciled postage stamps, and yeah, that's it. Once that's done, I can assemble my card. Now, one more product I am pulling in for this card is the Christmas bouquet die set from the previous release that was released last month. I absolutely love this huge die set. There are so many fun floral elements in it. Yeah, I really like it. Now, I stuck with a limited color palette, but they are quite bold. The blues and the reds I chose are pretty bold, so I wanted a quite muted background here. So I'm using some craft cardstock. This is Wheat from Conquer the Ninth, and I am blending on some nutmeg ink from Conquer the Ninth to darken some corners and to make it look a little aged maybe. I'm also going to add some white splatter. This white paint is Ecoline paint, so it's water-based paint. I really like how this splatters. It's a little bit more liquid than like acrylic paint that I normally use, and it still stays white even on like ink blended panels. Some white paints, especially water-based ones, would easily take on the brown of the ink while they dry. These don't do that quite so easily. It still happens sometimes if you have a really intense ink blending under them, but yeah, usually it doesn't. I adhered the postage stamps onto this card by just putting some foam tape behind it, and then I am going to tuck all the floral elements and the foliage elements underneath there and glue them down with some Barely Art Precision Craft glue. And this is the fun part of putting this card together. I sped it up because I like to play around with the elements a bunch, and maybe that's interesting to see, but it's really hard for me to do a voiceover of that. So I just cut it out. Maybe one day I'll figure out which music I could add to those parts, because I do think it's interesting to see the process of me finally deciding where to put everything, but it's not interesting to do a voiceover of. I apologize. Now, I did think these holly leaves could use some berries, so I pulled in some embellishments. These are from Pink Fresh Studio, and they're so beautifully shiny. And I'm just using my picky tool. I can't believe I forgot what it's called. This is from Gina K, a jewel picker tool, and I glued them down with Barely Art Precision Craft glue in groups of 3, because I feel like that's how berries should be for some reason. So this is the final card. I hope you like it. If you did, make sure to leave a leave your thoughts in the comments below, and check out all of the videos in the hub. All of the info is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!